You know what's the most dangerous kind of person in the world? Not the lazy one, not the hard worker. It's the person who is insanely ambitious, who has massive dreams, huge goals, a burning desire to succeed, but can't seem to get themselves off the couch long enough to actually do anything about it. And if you're being honest with yourself right now, that description might sound a little familiar. You want success, you think about it constantly, but actually doing the work? That's where everything falls apart. Today, I want to share something that might completely change that. Not a productivity hack, not a morning routine, a 400-year-old samurai philosophy that the most successful people in the modern world have quietly been using to win, and most people have never heard it explained the right way. Welcome to Mind Decode. If you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a like on this video right now because we go deep on the psychology and philosophy behind real success, and this one is going to hit differently. Stay with me all the way through because the most important part of what I'm about to tell you isn't the part you think it is. Let's start with a samurai named Miyamoto Musashi. If you don't know who he is, here's what you need to know. This man fought over 60 sword duels in his lifetime and won every single one. He was undefeated. He never lost. And when he was an old man, near the end of his life, he sat alone in a cave for 2 years and wrote down everything he had learned. Not just about sword fighting, about life, about the mind, about how to become genuinely great at anything. One of the things he wrote has stuck with me since the first time I read it. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Do nothing that is of no use." 6 words, simple. But if you actually think about it, it cuts through the noise of every productivity system, every self-help book, every motivational speech you've ever consumed. Do nothing that is of no use. Now, here's where the Kaizen philosophy comes in. Most people think Kaizen is just a business management concept from Japan. They think it's something companies use to improve assembly lines. And yes, it was popularized in post-World War II Japan as a manufacturing philosophy. Toyota used it to become one of the most efficient companies in the world. But the roots of Kaizen go much deeper than that. The word itself breaks down into 2 Japanese concepts. Kai, meaning change, and Zen, meaning good. Change for the better. Small, continuous, daily improvement. Not transformation, not revolution, not a complete reinvention of yourself overnight. Just slightly better every single day. That's it. That's the whole thing. And somehow, that simple idea is the answer to the ambitious but lazy problem that is quietly destroying so many people's potential. Here's why it works, and here's why everything else you've tried probably hasn't. When you're ambitious and lazy at the same time, you have a very specific psychological problem. Your ambition is showing you the mountain, the huge, distant, almost impossibly high peak of what you want to achieve. Your brain looks at that mountain, calculates the distance and the effort required, and immediately goes into what psychologists call threat response mode. The goal is so big, so overwhelming, so far away from where you currently are, that your brain doesn't register it as a target. It registers it as a threat. And what does the human brain do when it perceives a threat? It avoids it. It procrastinates. It finds something easier, something more immediately rewarding, something that doesn't make it feel incompetent or overwhelmed. So you scroll your phone instead. You watch one more episode. You tell yourself you'll start Monday. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's protecting you from perceived danger. Kaizen works because it bypasses that response completely. Instead of showing your brain a mountain, you show it a single step. Not 10 steps, not a staircase, 1 step. What is the smallest possible action you could take today that moves you even slightly in the direction of your goal? We're talking about improvements so small that your brain literally cannot generate a fear response to them. Can you read 1 page of that book you've been meaning to start?
Can you do 5 minutes of exercise? Not an hour, not a full workout, just 5 minutes. Can you write one paragraph of that business plan you've been sitting on for 2 years? Can you make one phone call that you've been avoiding? One. That's it. And here's the magic that Musashi understood long before modern neuroscience could explain it. The action itself is not the point. The identity shift is the point. When you take that tiny action, when you read that one page, when you do those 5 minutes, something happens in your brain that is far more valuable than the page you read or the calories you burned. You send yourself a signal. You prove to yourself in a small but real way that you are someone who does the thing. You are a reader. You are someone who exercises. You are someone who works on their goals. And identity, as the psychologists and the samurai both figured out, is the most powerful driver of behavior that exists. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. Change the identity, and the behavior follows. Kaizen changes the identity one tiny, undeniable proof point at a time. At Decode, we talk a lot about the gap between knowing and doing. Because here's the truth. Most ambitious, intelligent people already know what they should be doing. You know you should exercise more. You know you should read more. You know you should work on your business idea. You know you should reach out to that person. The knowledge is not the problem. The gap between knowing and doing, that is the problem. And the reason that gap exists almost universally is that people are trying to cross it in one giant leap instead of one small step at a time. They're trying to go from couch to marathon in one day. They're trying to go from zero to full commitment overnight. And when that doesn't work, when they inevitably fall back, they don't conclude that their approach was wrong. They conclude that they are broken, that they don't have what it takes, that other people are just built differently. And that conclusion, that story they tell themselves, makes the gap even wider next time they try to cross it. Now let me tell you something that Musashi knew, that the samurai culture deeply understood, and that the Kaizen philosophy is built on. Consistency is not about motivation. Say that again. Consistency is not about motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings, by their nature, are temporary. They come and they go. You will never feel motivated every day. No one does. Not the most successful people in the world, not the most disciplined athletes, not the most productive entrepreneurs. No one wakes up feeling fired up and ready every single morning. Motivation is the spark. It gets you started, but it is a terrible fuel source for the long journey of building something meaningful with your life. What the samurai had, what the Kaizen philosophy builds, is something completely different. It's a system, a ritual, a set of daily actions that happen regardless of how you feel, because they have become simply what you do. Not what you do when you're motivated, not what you do when conditions are perfect, just what you do. The way you brush your teeth. You don't think about whether you feel motivated to brush your teeth, you just do it because it's who you are. That's what Kaizen, practiced consistently, builds in every area of your life. Let me give you the practical framework, because this needs to be something you can actually use today, not just an interesting idea you forget about in 20 minutes. The first principle is what I call the floor, not the ceiling approach. Most people, when they decide to build a new habit, set a goal that represents the best version of that habit. They decide to exercise, so they commit to working out for an hour every day. They decide to read, so they commit to reading for 30 minutes every night. That's the ceiling, the ideal outcome. And the ceiling is where ambition goes to die. Because every day you don't hit the ceiling, you feel like a failure. Instead, set a floor. The floor is the minimum, the non-negotiable smallest version of the habit that you will do no matter what. The floor for exercise might be 5 minutes. The floor for reading might be 2 pages. The floor for working on your business might be 15 minutes. On good days, you'll go way above the floor. You'll exercise for an hour, read for an hour, work for 3 hours. But on hard days, on exhausted days, on overwhelmed days, you hit the floor. You do the minimum, and you maintain the streak. Because maintaining the streak, keeping the identity intact, is worth infinitely more than having a perfect performance once a week and nothing in between. The second principle is what the Japanese call shoshin, beginner's mind, and this one is directly from the samurai tradition. Musashi wrote extensively about the danger of expertise, the way that becoming good at something can actually make you worse because you stop seeing clearly. You start performing the movements without actually paying attention to them. Beginners are always better learners than experts because beginners are paying attention. They're present. Every repetition is new to them. Shoshin, applied to Kaizen, means approaching your small daily actions with genuine attention and genuine curiosity. Not going through the motions, but actually being present for the 5 minutes of exercise, actually engaged with the 2 pages of reading, actually thinking during the 15 minutes of work. Quality of attention over quantity of time. This is why 5 focused minutes often produces more real progress than an hour of distracted, half-present effort. The third principle, and this one comes directly from Musashi's philosophy of strategy, is the concept of sente, which means taking initiative. In sword fighting, the fighter who is always reacting is always losing because they're always a fraction of a second behind. The fighter who takes initiative, who acts first, who sets the terms of the engagement, has a fundamental advantage. In your daily life, sente means doing your most important small action first, before email, before social media, before the news, before the demands of the day start hitting you. The ambitious but lazy pattern is almost always characterized by good intentions that get eroded by the friction of the day. You planned to work on your goal, but then something came up, and then you were tired, and then it was evening, and then it was time to sleep, and the day is gone. Taking sente means your minimum action, your floor, happens before the day has a chance to steal it from you. Even if nothing else goes right, the most important thing already happened. That one small proof point already landed. The identity is intact. Here's something that might feel uncomfortable but needs to be said. The ambitious but lazy pattern is not actually about laziness. Not really. Genuine laziness, not caring about anything, having no drive, feeling no desire to be or do more, is actually rare. What most people call laziness is actually something more complex. It's a defense mechanism. It's the mind protecting itself from the pain of trying and failing. If you never really try, if you stay in the planning phase, the thinking phase, the I'll start soon phase, you can maintain the belief that you could have succeeded if you'd really committed. The potential stays intact. The dream stays alive. But the moment you actually try, you're risking something real. You're risking finding out whether the potential was real. And that risk, that vulnerability, is terrifying for ambitious people because their entire identity is often built on their belief in their own potential. Kaizen is the answer to this too, because the stakes of each individual action are so low that the fear response cannot attach to them. You cannot fail at reading 1 page. You cannot fail at exercising for 5 minutes. The action is so small, so achievable, so undeniably within your capability that the defense mechanism has nothing to grab onto. And yet, strung together over days and weeks and months, those tiny actions produce something that genuinely could not be faked or rationalized away. Real progress, real skill, real results. The potential becomes real. Not through some dramatic transformation, not through a single heroic effort, but through the quiet accumulation of countless small, honest actions. Musashi, in the final years of his life, painted, He calligraphied. He wrote poetry. The greatest warrior in Japanese history spent his old age making art. Because Kaizen, the pursuit of continuous improvement for its own sake, was not a productivity tool to him. It was a philosophy of being alive. It was the belief that the act of getting slightly better in any domain, on any given day, was itself a worthy and meaningful way to spend a human life.
You don't practice because you're going to win. You practice because practicing is what makes you who you are.
So here's what I want you to do right now. Today. Not Monday, not after you finish watching YouTube, not when things calm down at work. Today. Pick one area of your life where the gap between where you are and where you want to be is causing you the most pain. Just one. And define your floor for that area. What is the smallest, most undeniably achievable daily action that moves you toward that goal? Write it down. Make it so small that you almost feel embarrassed by how small it is.
And then do it tomorrow morning, before anything else, before the day has a chance to steal it from you. That's it. That's the whole instruction. Do that one thing tomorrow. And then the day after, and then the day after that. Let the compound interest of tiny, honest action do what it has always done. Build something real, something durable, something that no motivational spike could ever have built alone.
Drop a comment below right now and tell me, what is the one area you're choosing and what is your floor? I read every single comment on this channel and I want to know. And if this video made something click for you, if it finally gave words to something you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You probably know at least one person who is brilliant, ambitious, full of potential, and completely stuck. Send this to them. It might be the most useful thing you do for someone today. And if you're not subscribed to Mind Decode yet, hit that button right now because this is exactly what we do here. Every single video. Real ideas that actually change how you think and how you live. We'll see you in the next one.